Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another scene of Living World of Darkness. Today we will be doing a refresher session for our dear Rick Greyson, who has been studying really hard to learn Fortitude. Some of it unintentional, but nevertheless. Today he is coming back to visit Lady Sheridan at her mansion in order to just finalise his studies. Just make sure that he has completely learned everything there is to learn. So when he makes his way to the mansion, Lady Sheridan will be waiting at the door to meet him, as usual.
Okay. Rick will park his usual vehicle, the station wagon, and come up to the door, knock a few times, and wait for Lady Sheridan to answer.
Good evening. How are things progressing?
Rick will smile and just sort of pause for a moment. I did run into a bit of trouble the other night. I think we can skip our second lesson. He kind of glances sideways for a minute, like he's thinking about something, then looks back to Lady Sheridan. Can I come in and we'll talk about it more?
Very well. In that case, should we make our way through to the backyard instead? And she'll lead the way through the house to the backyard. And with a bit, not too much effort, she takes a cover off a fire pit in the back garden, tarp over the top, strikes a match and sets it going, folding the tarp neatly out of the way where it is less likely to be seen.
Rick will watch her as she's doing this, and then just kind of stare at the fire pit as the fire gets going. That's the lesson.
Yes, well, unfortunately, you do need to progress to attempting to resolve aggravated damage.
Rick will kind of visibly sigh.
And she'll take a seat on the stone against the cushions and just wait for him to steady himself.
Rick will kind of skirt the light of the fire as he walks around it to the rock seating until seat himself the distance of a few seats away from Lady Sheridan. Just sort of hopelessly looking to the fire.
We've already discussed the damage that can be done from mundane weapons, but we both know that the sun and fire and things of that nature can harm us rather more in our current state than more mundane damage. And if you want to be able to truly call yourself capable when it comes to the matter of fortitude, you need to be able to handle, or at least attempt to handle, matters such as fire.
Rick will nod and look back to the campfire. I've heard that the sun and fire were particularly bad for us. Never experienced it firsthand. Haven't had much inclination to do so. He's just kind of staring at the fire with an almost oh shit look on his face.
And Lady Sheridan will just sit patiently, let him kind of work his way through in his head and deal with the fear he might have of the fire.
He's wearing his usual, semi-formal clothing, shirt and a blazer over it. And he'll start taking the blazer off and then roll up his shirt past his elbow. And as he's doing this, he'll look over to Lady Sheridan. Have you ever had to deal with fire?
Fortunately, only the one time. It was not pleasant.
The one time?
Yes, well, some people had a problem with my remaining in the city that I was embraced in. You will feel fear. That is natural. We all feel the fear of the fire, and we all need the fear of the fire. It reminds us it is a bad place to be. But if you want to claim your personal strength, well, courage does not exist in the absence of fear. It exists despite it. And in many ways, fortitude is an expression of our courage made manifest, our ability to survive despite attempts to damage us and despite the damage which we might otherwise take, not in merely the absence of it.
Okay, a few rolls before we really get going here. That would be Rick's Nightmares roll, which he barely passes. Then... Contacts. Okay. And this will be the new and improved investigation roll for the week. Oh! Let's see. 2 successes. Okay. Rick clasps his hands together and kind of rubs them together like he's preparing himself. He's thinking. You can visibly see him thinking about this. He's just kind of staring at the fire and looks like he's getting ready. He's sitting up on the rock and kind of sitting forward. So I just try it.
Okay, you looked up the difficulty for Rottrek before, didn't you?
Yes, both the
Yep.
rot shrek roll and the burn difficulty will be difficulty 7.
Okay, and it's willpower for the Rottrek, isn't it?
That is one thing I'm not sure about. I think it's courage to resist rot shrek and self-control for frenzy.
Oh, okay.
But as far as overcoming rot shrek, I can't remember the exact rolls for that one.
Okay.
So let's just hope it doesn't happen.
Yes. So courage to resist Rottrek, and obviously it is stamina, fortitude to soak. Yeah.
Well, just fortitude for fire.
Just fortitude for fire. Okay.
It's gonna be fun.
Yes. But I was asking because her response to this will probably be, just give me a sec. Bum, bum. Check. And spending a willpower, which I needed. I should be able to soak with the willpower, because I know usually soaking is not something, but in this case, I think well, with fortitude, I think it kind of is. So she's going to reach out and she's going to grab one of the coals. Just grab it in her hand and squish it until it goes out because of lack of oxygen, because squished in hand. Which takes surprisingly short amount of time.
Rick will watch her do this.
And she will drop it on the floor.
Seeing her do this seems to make Rick feel a little better about it.
Yeah. And it probably stung quite a lot because it's only the willpower that let her soak it. but she is quite good at hiding those kind of things. If you want, I'll make a manipulation subterfuge roll to see if she hides the pain.
No, let's just go for it. Let's let Rick be oblivious.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I've got 6 dice for that. It's probably going to work okay.
Okay, so Rick will scoot a little closer to the fire. And then, without much warning, he'll just take the hand that he's rolled up his sleeve on, and he'll just stick that right into the body of the fire. And you can see on his face just he's visibly concentrating and grimacing. And first, the rot check roll.
And then he freaks out.
Okay, so Rick freaks out, but before he does, let's do the damage roll. Oh, dear. Okay, gotta get my wits about me here. Damage roll. Just 1 die. Which he also fails.
Aww.
Rick withdraws his hand from the fire, and it's visibly charred. And he immediately, you can see him like bare his fangs, jump up from the stone seating, and just turn and run in the opposite direction. I'm guessing Lady Sheridan probably has a pretty big yard, maybe with some like woods in the back or something.
Yep. Yep, and she is out of the way to let you do this.
He's going to be running directly into the woods, away from the fire, into the trees. And for the sake of not clogging the whole scene down with a bunch of overcoming rot strike rolls for no reason, we'll just
Well, I
say,
think once you're out of immediate danger, you can calm down. It's just that you then have to struggle to come back to the fire.
we'll just say after a few minutes, after like a minute or two, you see Rick kind of slowly come back out of the woods, peeking out around the tree and sort of slowly walking back towards the fire. But he stops about halfway between the woods and the fire pit. And he just kind of looks down at his burnt hand, and he's just visibly in pain.
Lady Sheridan just looks at him, waiting to see what he will do or say. Because she can't do it for him. She can help, but she cannot do it for him.
Rick is Rick is going to stand there for a minute, just on the lawn, looking at his hand, then back at the fire. This time, I'm going to make him a courage roll, just to approach the fire.
Yeah, probably a good plan.
Okay, he passes that. Just barely, but he passes it.
Yep.
He slowly makes his way back to the same seat he had, sits back down, looks over to Lady Sheridan. That was embarrassing.
Not especially. As I said, we all have fear. It keeps us safe. Courage is what allows us to overcome the fear.
Right. And he's sort of not rubbing his hands together anymore because one's charred and really painful. So instead, he's kind of clutching that hand and just kind of holding it close to him. Should I try again?
When you feel ready. Unless you'd prefer me to find some way to make it more of a surprise. It did seem to work better for you before.
Rick will just shake his head. No. If I'm going to be able to do this, I need to be able to do it under any condition. I need to really know how to do this.
She'll nod, definitely not disagreeing with you. But sometimes it is easier to gain the confidence from having achieved.
Rick will look down to his hand again. And obviously not rolling up the other sleeve, scoot closer to the fire.
And Lady Sheridan will pick up the coal that she picked up earlier. And so it's not hot anymore because it's been squidged out and dropped on the ground. She's going to hold it up. She's going to move around to the opposite side of the fire and hold it up around your eye level. The coal that has gone out, the coal that she has taken, grasped, extinguished. A reminder, it can be achieved.
Rick will just nod, say nothing, and once again thrust his already charred hand back into the fire. And once again, Roger. Come on, Rick! Pull it together.
But that's a fail rather than a botch, so I'm guessing it's more he reaches out, feels the heat of the fire, and pulls back. Then he runs away.
Okay.
That's from the botch where he runs away. In this case, I mean, the fire is contained. You're not scared that the fire is going to come get you. So it's more that you fail to put your hand in, I think. It makes sense for a failure than a botch.
We'll go with that. We'll say he starts to thrust his charred hand towards the fire, but before it even gets there, the burn makes the heat of the fire even more sensitive on him, and he immediately withdraws. This time, I'm going to have him spend a willpower point to overcome this effect, since he's experienced the Rot Shrek fear multiple times in the past few days. And this time he's just going to put his hand actually in the fire. And he passes! Oh my god!
Yay!
And fire, and pulls it back out, and it's not any more charred than it was before.
And you got the coal!
It curiously and almost amused. Did that work? And he looks back to his hand, which is already kind of red and blackened.
But Lady Sheridan will nod because it certainly doesn't look any worse than it was before.
Rick will sit back in the sort of stone seating around the fire, still looking at his hand, like with a look of amused accomplishment on his face. He looks pleased with himself.
Would you like some bandages?
It'll take Rick a moment to respond. He'll just stare at his hand for a moment. And then sort of, almost just as you think he's decided not to respond to you, he'll suddenly look over and finally speak. Oh, what? No. Would bandages help? No.
Not especially, but they might make it easier for getting home.
Oh. Yeah, good idea. Rick seems sort of elated, but also distracted.
Yes. No, she's quite comfortable with that. She will leave him to sit by the fire for a while and go and fetch a first aid box. She has rather more of them in the house than you might expect. She'll even leave Rick staring in, presumably into the fire and kind of at his hand, while she kneels next to where he's sitting and focuses on dealing with his arm, bandaging it up rather neatly. I can make a medicine roll if you want, but as it's mostly cosmetic, it's just bandaging that does not a huge amount for ag damage on vampires.
I wouldn't say it would require a medical roll because it's not going to do anything other than cover it up.
Yeah, so it's nice and neat. Because she does have medicine. It's only medicine 1, but it's enough for putting bandages on.
Rick will smile and nod to Lady Sheridan. Look at the now bandaged hand. Thanks. And he'll sit back on the rock again and then look back to Lady Sheridan. So, is that the lesson?
That was the lesson. Congratulations, she says, handing him the dropped piece of coal.
He'll take it in his non-burned hand and just sort of look at it with a pleased look on his face. Then, after a moment, it'll seem like it just suddenly occurs to Rick. Oh, by the way, how have things been going for you lately?
Really quite well.
Oh?
I can't remember. Did I mention the last time we met about the Primogen ship?
Out of character? I can't remember.
Out of character, neither can I, hence the question.
I know you told me, but I can't remember if it was out of character or in character.
Yes. Whichever one you want to go with, we'll assume that that is the truth.
No, you didn't. You hadn't. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations pending. I assume you wanted the position.
Yes. I do like to represent my clan in a positive light.
Rick will sort of smile and nod knowingly. I think he's communicated a similar desire himself the last time they met.
Well, he definitely communicated a desire to be Primogen. Not necessarily even to represent the clan so much as because the house goes to the Primogen. Yes,
I think he also mentioned he didn't want to risk somebody less trustworthy than himself getting the position.
Yes.
That's his main motivation.
I have also been involved in a small investigation regarding a dead body.
Oh, the one mentioned at the Elysium.
Yes.
How's that going?
Well, there is more and more evidence that it may be related to an attempted embrace. But at the very least, it seems quite likely that kindred were involved.
Well, when I first heard about it, it screamed kindred to me. I mean, it was a body drained of blood in or around our own hunting grounds and left there.
Yes.
It
did seem fairly obvious, but at the same time, quite unusual for the hair and eyebrows to be removed. And now we find that the individuals who placed the body at the scene moved suspiciously and unnaturally fast. And that there was blood noted in the corpse's mouth.
Real quick, I'm going to make a perception occult roll. Hey. Okay. When Lady Sheridan mentions an attempted embrace and removed hair and eyebrows, but the hair he's heard before, but now suddenly it seems to click with him.
Do you have any Sabbat law, or would your character have Sabbat law that we now need to sort out when we can figure out what the laws cost and the STs all get together and sort things out?
No, I'm just using my perception occult.
Okay.
Because this, well, I'll just say it in character. This seems something like a cult, doesn't it? Shaved hair, eyebrows, just before an attempted embrace, you're saying?
Yes, it does seem quite unique and unusual.
Well, on the plus side, at least it doesn't sound so much like a well, serial murder or something. But on the other hand, it does seem a bit more.
Unusual and concerning. After all, if there are those of our kind nearby who are so indiscreet, then it suggests that they may have been leaving some form of message for us regarding their intentions or activities.
Hmm. The location and the fact that it was left there instead of disposed of does seem to indicate a sort of message, doesn't it?
It does. Of course, it
Why,
could simply be that relatively indiscreet and foolish kindred from amongst our own saw it as a convenient dumping ground just outside of Manhattan. But the more people we speak to without someone having at least made some attempt at apology, knowing that the investigation will likely lead to them,
hmm.
the less likely that particular possibility is. And the more likely it is someone we do not yet know.
You said it was potentially an attempted embrace. Why do you say that?
Well, to embrace, you remove the blood and you replace some of it with some of your own.
Yeah.
And if the body is without blood, and there was blood in the body's mouth, it is possible that they attempted to feed it the blood, but either did not give it enough, or did not give it quickly enough, or the individual struggled to refuse the blood. Some way, shape, or form, the embrace did not occur, or at least had not occurred, as far as we know. The possibility was raised that we make every effort to find out if the body is still where it is supposed to be now.
So there was blood in its mouth.
Yes,
Was it our blood?
we don't know. Just have a witness report saying that there was blood
Hmm.
in or around its mouth.
Well, then it may be worth relocating the body, if not only to make sure it's still there, to
Yes,
find out if the blood was ours.
yes, unfortunately, it is difficult getting hold of a body, especially one which is currently under investigation. So we are looking into the matter.
It's become public now?
Well, the police did find the body and chased the journalist away from the scene.
I thought we had handled it.
No, we found out about this from a journalist after the fact, after the body had been removed by the police.
Oh. Something Mr. Green said at the Elysium led me to believe we
We
have
have kept
not.
this, the story is fairly quiet,
Hmm.
and the journalist is relatively in hand.
So it's not under control, but it's mitigated.
Yes. It's something that we are still working to uncover. Until we have gotten to the bottom of this, it will be very hard to entirely control the situation. But, as I said, it is something that we are working on.
Speaking of Mr. Green, I believe at the Elysium he mentioned Mr. Peck and I ought to investigate some area? The area where the body was found, maybe?
Yes, I believe he felt that each of your clans might have specific insight into what might have occurred there previously.
Well, I'd be happy to help, I suppose, but I really don't know that I'd be able to offer much. It's not... Well, crime scene investigation in particular isn't my area of expertise.
Yes, and the police and their like are not particularly my area of expertise. We do what we can and we accept what we cannot achieve, much like the fire.
Speaking of the police, I imagine they probably have the area in question under their control.
Quite possibly. But until some people attend the park, it is hard to be certain.
Oh, it was a park.
Yes, the other side of Lincoln, of of Lincoln Tunnel,
Hmm.
just in New Jersey.
Well, even more reason not to visit parks.
Yes, as if we needed much.
Rick just kind of smiles. He's heard stories. So, as the primogen of your clan now, are there any other, I don't know, duties you were looking into acquiring for yourself?
She will smile. Quite a pleased little smirk. Well, I am certainly open to opportunities to further the Camarilla and the Ventry within it, as well as the city as a whole, of course.
Naturally.
And if those opportunities should come in the form of responsibilities and titles, well, such is the way things work.
Be careful not to overburden yourself.
Of course, you must never take on responsibilities which you cannot fulfill.
Rick just sort of smiles and nods.
And yourself, beyond the issue of primogenship, which thankfully you seem to have in hand, was there anything else that you had hoped to aspire to?
To be honest, I never really aspired for the primogenship. It's more a, how to put it,
Matter of survival?
something like that. I have, well, this might sound odd to someone outside the clan, but I have pride for my clan. I don't I don't want to see our position of leadership thrown away.
I
I want to.
quite understand. As you said, it may seem strange to many people, but it is important to value yourself and what you can achieve and where your heritage may have come from.
From the first night I arrived in New York City, I I've wanted to improve the, how do I put it, the standing, the status, the amount of recognition, or rather the reason for recognition that Clan Malkavian receives. It's no secret we have a certain stigma about us. I've been wanting to help absolve.
Well, I find that there are always individuals that will bring stigma upon a clan, and there are always ones that will work to absolve that and to better their clan. Before my arrival in the city, I hear that there was a venture that brought our clan into quite some disrepute. I could tell you a story of a Bruja that would put their entire clan to shame. I have heard tales of our dear Mr. Peck, indeed, as well. So there is always, always members of any clan that will not live up to the rest of their family. But as you say, there is a certain stigma associated with the Malkavians. I think perhaps it is simply that some people hope to externalize matters. They hope that by thinking of the Malkavians as suffering from various maladies, that it will mean that their clans do not.
Sort of empowering their own clans by undermining ours.
To a degree. But I don't think it is even that deliberate. I think it is simply that people wish not to accept that everyone has the potential for all kinds of behaviours and for all manner of issues. And that by claiming that only the Malkavians must deal with this curse, they hope to immunise themselves, to protect themselves from possibly having to deal with such in their own lives.
Rick will just sort of start laughing at the use of the word immunize. I like that. I like that.
Well, if one associates the clan of Malkavians with, for lack of a more delicate word, madness, then if one is not Malkavian, then one can assume that one is not mad. When we all know that things are rarely that simple.
No, no, not usually. I imagine I imagine any person, any kindred, could find themselves as disturbed as they would imagine a Malkavian would be. But I don't believe that the other clans are given the same opportunity. There's a certain sort of enlightenment in deviant perspectives.
Lady Sheridan would smile. Well, I'm sure we both agree that there is seldom any situation one can be in which there is not a positive aspect, an opportunity if one looks for it.
Rip will just kind of smile. As for your friend in the investigation,
Yes?
I've been having my secretary do the work for some time now, and unfortunately, she's come to a dead end. I've had her redouble her efforts, and this time I'm helping her myself. I will find whatever information there is on your friend. Rick looks particularly determined.
Thank you. Of course, the sooner the better, but I understand that everyone has their limits.
Rick will nod. It's my hope that now that I've joined in the efforts and decided to help her search, that the search will go faster. Well, faster as well as be successful. And he looks a little perturbed for a moment. His brow might twitch a little.
Excellent. Well, I can but hope that the news that you managed to find will be positive.
I hope so. I'd like to find your friend and get you two in contact again. That would be the best outcome.
Yes, for everyone involved.
Rick looks a little curious for a moment, and he hesitates, but then the hesitation goes away, and he speaks up. What will you do if she's not in the city anymore, for whatever reason?
That does not matter. I did say she might not be in that city anymore. She might be in any city. She might be dead. There is very little I can do if she has met the final death. And as regards to anything else, I will hope to contact her and see what situation she is in.
Rick will just kind of frown a little when Lady Sheridan mentions final death.
She was young, and as much as she was well educated for her age, She was still inexperienced. It is very possible that she will not have survived the trials that will have come her way. Hence, very much hoping that this matter will be resolved as quickly as possible.
Rick will nod and, still frowning a little. I can understand that. I'd hate for her to be gone before I can even find her.
I would very much hate to find that to be the case as well. But, as I said, there is little I can do.
Were you too close?
She'll give a small smile. We were quite different. But I'd like to think that our impact on each other was predominantly positive.
It's rare for us, and he'll sort of gesture between them, sort of indicating kindred in general. It's somewhat rare for us to find friendship, isn't it?
It certainly can be, or at least in the same sense as mortals do.
There seems to be, well, there seems to be a lot less trust going around, but granted, I can understand why. We're all, well, what we are.
Yes. On the matter of which, by the way, I should hate to tell tales, especially when I am not entirely certain of them, as you can never be entirely certain when you hear things secondhand. But do be cautious regarding Mr. Peck's refreshments.
Oh?
Yes, as I said, it may be nothing, it may be gossip, it may be rumour, but I did hear that at some point in the past he was caught attempting to blood bond his inferiors within the clan.
Ah, so you think he's making his own line, so to speak.
Possibly, possibly not. All I'm saying is that caution is always wise.
Rick will kind of smile, amused by the sort of fitting situation that this was brought up in. Trust Mr. Peck bottling his own wine. Where did you hear that rumor?
From our dear sheriff.
Oh. Well, that's a reliable source if there is one.
I certainly think so. At the moment, at least. Enough to feel it is worth mentioning and warning to a few individuals.
Well, thanks for that. Do you know Frank Green well?
Not as yet, but we have been associating rather more of late.
Oh, on account of the body.
In part. In part, certain other discussions that we may find might prove fruitful in time. I think he is sizing me up as a new kindred to the city.
Rick will sort of raise a brow at the sizing me up part until she clarifies. Ah. For a minute there.
I don't know yet quite what it is that he wants, but I'm fairly certain that he sees me as a kindred of potential for something.
Well, I can't argue with that.
Now, if I can merely find something to pour that potential into.
How so?
Well, venture primogen is something. It certainly is something. But with so few in the city, it does not come with a great deal of responsibilities and demands upon my time. Now, that is something positive in that I could certainly look into filling my time in other ways. And I have quite a few projects on hand, but at the same time, aspiration is something that my clan is somewhat known for.
Oh, someone.
Within reason, of course.
Rick will just sort of chuckle for a minute. Are you sure he's not just hitting on you?
That is entirely possible as well.
Rick will laugh.
He did suggest a trip to the opera.
Oh, and you didn't go?
No, we did.
Oh, how was that?
Quite entertaining. Not entirely my favourite way to spend an evening, but certainly quite entertaining.
Rick will raise a brow as if his interest is piqued. And what is your favorite way to spend an evening?
Well, now, we all know that the Ventru do not discuss their preferences.
Rick will smile and shake his head.
And Lady Sheridan will smile quite widely as well.
I feel uh, I feel like this was almost a I'll show you mine if you show me yours situation. Rick sort of laughs.
And Lady Sheridan will raise an eyebrow with a bit of a smirk.
Is the fire still going?
Yes, it is. It will probably be going for quite some time.
Rick will look back to the fire. Did anyone have to teach you Fortitude?
No. I taught myself. But it is in my clan's blood.
Well, that's handy.
As much as it is enjoyable to spend time with others of our kind, it is also quite enjoyable to be able to manage for oneself.
I know that feeling. There seems to be an awful lot of different possibilities with our blood. Talk to you, and of course I've talked to my own sire. Talked to a man, the odd one that was at Elysium, Dales. From my sire, I learned about 3 of these powers. From you, I learned of 1, and was even taught it. And from Mr. Dales, I was told about another. Wasn't terribly interesting. At least I couldn't imagine a use for it, but another one nonetheless. And it strikes me that there seems to be an awful lot of potential with our blood.
There is. And each clan has their own specialities, some of which overlap. I couldn't tell you them all off the top of my head, but yes, there is overlap and there is distinction. Each of the clans, as you said, your sire taught you 3, or of 3, presumably the ones to which your blood is best attuned.
Rick will nod.
My sire taught me of 3. He taught me 1 in greater depth. And then, shortly thereafter, I learned a 2nd. And now, thanks to requiring it for our little training, I have taught myself a 3rd.
And a useful one to have.
Quite.
Aren't you glad I wanted to learn?
Yes, I am quite glad. Otherwise, I might never have gotten around to it as much as I had intended to. And it would be quite unfortunate were to find out that I should need it before such a time as I managed to get around to learning it.
That would be bad. It seems like something you want to have before you need it.
Yes. But, as I said, my sire taught me one particular discipline. Pardon?
When he says you'll want it before you need it, he'll sort of glance at his bandaged hand.
Yes. But as I said, my sire somewhat specialised in my teaching.
Ah. My sire... And Rick sort of sits back on the stone seating again, kind of musing looking. My sire was... She was a strange woman. She taught me... Well, she taught me what I suppose she thought was necessary. And little else. And then she was gone.
unfortunate in some ways, fortunate in others.
Did you have a poor experience with your sire?
She'll shrug.
I see.
My sire taught me well.
And I suppose
There seems to be a very strong but at the end of that sentence, but she doesn't continue.
and I suppose that will have to be good enough.
It has been for me so far.
Do you still see your sire, or are they still in the other city?
He's dead.
Ah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Or, well, he just kind of stops himself and smiles.
And Lady Sheridan will just give a small smile in return.
Rick will sit up on a seat and sort of scoot to the edge. Well, it's good having another chat with you.
It has been quite pleasant for me as well.
We'll have to find another reason to meet up.
We certainly shall. At the very least, I expect you to see you in the Primogen Council meetings.
Rick will just kind of laugh, look down, and shake his head a little. Ah, yes, that. Well, maybe you will. Maybe you could say as much to Silas.
I certainly will consider mentioning it, but he is notoriously difficult to arrange meetings with.
I hear that. He had some sort of errand he wanted me to run, but I haven't heard much about it since then. And I think that was just after he had his promotion.
I see. And have you made any progress with the errand?
Well, no, exactly. I assumed he had someone specific he wanted me to meet with, but he never got around to making the introductions. So I'm just waiting, I suppose.
Well, if the people that say that God moves in mysterious ways should ever meet a Nosferatu, they may reconsider their statement.
Actually, go ahead and roll a, how would it be, perception subterfuge for me.
Perception subterfuge. Okay.
Rick is sort of half lying right now. Okay. You're not sure he's lying, but you get the sense that there might be more to the story than he's actually let on.
Which is fair enough. She quite frequently tells stories without elucidating the details.
Rick will stand up from the stone seating and sort of half nod, half bowing his head to Lady Sheridan. Thank you for the evening. Thank you for the lesson.
And she will nod in return as she stands. Shall I show you to your car?
I'd be happy if you would.
And so she will walk through the house to back to the front door, and Rick will go on his merry way, and there the scene will end.